Josiah, it's me,
Open your
Hannah.
eyes.
I'm starting to create stories for you now. I hope you like this one. The Fairy Children. Once upon a time, there lived a man and woman who had 3 little boys and 3 little girls. The boys were called Josiah, Jacob, and Clarence. The girls were called Hannah, Sarah, and Elizabeth. The little children loved to read. They loved all sorts of books, but their favorites were about fairies. They loved reading about all of the different types of fairies and what they were like. One day, Elizabeth, the youngest girl, said, "Mommy, I wish I were a fairy." Mommy replied, "Sweetheart, only the fairies know how to grant your wish, and I heard that they live in a far-off land known as Fairyland, and only magic can get you there." Elizabeth asked, "Well, what if a fairy would come over to us?" Mommy replied, "That has happened before. They often come when some evil falls over our world. They are very smart and clever and always come up with solutions." The other little girls and boys also heard this and cried out, "We wish to be fairies too." But Mommy replied, "If you were fairies, you would be away from me. Don't you all love me?" "We do, we do," the children said all at once. "Why do you not want to be a fairy?" asked Josiah. Mommy replied, "I am just happy with the simple life that we are living now." Jacob said, "If you were a fairy, you would have lots of power. You would be able to fly, cast spells, and do all sorts of other wonderful things." Hannah said, "You would have a magic wand, fairy dust, and a set of wings, which all have magical properties. Even without those, if you would say for anything to happen, it would happen." Clarence said, "You would wear a light and airy dress that sparkles all over and would be crowned with flowers or jewels." "I am sure jealous of those fairies," Mommy replied. Daddy heard the conversation too. He said, "I would also like to be a fairy." Night after night they dreamt about being fairies. They thought about it day after day. Finally, one day, a fairy happened to come by. As soon as she saw them up close, she descended from midair and said, "I heard that you wish to be fairies. I am the fairy Flora, and I can grant your wish in a moment." The children and the parents surrounded the fairy and smiled at her, and Flora said, "I can turn you into fairies one at a time." She then fluttered above Josiah's head and waved her wand 3 times while speaking some magic words. After she did this, she repeated the same process with each of the other kids, and then Mommy and Daddy. With Flora taking the lead, they all flew to Fairyland, where they lived happily ever after. The end.